Greetings, everyone! I'm the delicious and mythical Griffin Muffin. And, first off for this review, I'm gonna tell you a story just to build up a bit of atmosphere. You see, there was once a boy desperate for video games. He happened across a game called WarCraft 3. Amidst his journey, he found the custom mod map called Battleships within the game itself, in which he became instantly intrigued by. A sense of progression, fast, action-packed combat, using map awareness and positioning to form a strategy to defeat foul knaves, either next to him or the many trolls online. He came back to it time and time again to always be satisfied. It was a blend of simplicity, but it rewarded well-thought-out plans. Sadly, after just kind of not being that much into WarCraft 3 anymore, the desire for the naval warfare battle arena evanescently faded into memory. That was until I discovered this awesome game called Maelstrom. This game is everything that was awesome about the very same WarCraft 3 mod map that I just talked about. This game makes it just so fucking fun! This game is technically a MOBA. You enter a battle arena with up to 16 other players and duke it out to have one ship the final victor. This is currently the only multiplayer mode active as of making this video, but you can go up against bots to hone your skills. But before I go on, let's provide some background for this game. This game is the first game developed by Gunpowder Games, a new game developer with people who have worked at reputable game developers such as Relic Entertainment, Blizzard Entertainment, Riot Games, and many more, working on games such as Overwatch, League of Legends, and the Deadpool video game. Well, my oh my, that's an impressive resume if I say so myself, but it really shows. The action is fluid and lively, maneuvering on the seas feels like you're controlling a heavy battleship with the right balance of control, yet realistic weight. Combat is fast-paced and frantic sometimes, but if you assess the situation carefully, you can execute some well-thought-out strategies. I hopped onto this with my good mate, Chipboard, and we both had a great time. It's on Steam in Early Access right now, and to me, it doesn't feel like one of those typical Steam Early Access games, if you know what I mean. But I want to explain a bit more as to why I think this game deserves your attention. Keep in mind though, throughout this video, that the game is in Early Access. Gameplay and mechanics. If you hadn't guessed already, you be a captain of a boat! You can pick from a choice of orcs, humans, and dwarves. I went orcs because orcs are a hardy people in a lot of medieval fantasy, often portrayed as survivors, and usually have a case of mistaken identity, treated as barbarians and cutthroats, when in fact their society is rich with culture, history, and a strong bond of community, or when their ships are driven by fucking sharks! Oh yes, the efficient transportation mode of by shark, how could we forget? But goddamn if that's not one of the most metal things I've seen in a while. And their primary focus involves guerrilla-like warfare, with getting in quickly, disabling their enemy with the raiding mechanic. Psst, don't worry, I'll explain later. While the other teams, like the humans, have a more well-rounded approach with good speed and good firepower, and the dwarves with slower but more armored boats that can reverse with cannons that fire in all four directions. That's a good segue into the combat mechanics. You control the camera with the mouse, and that changes the angle at which you wish to fire. Each boat is different as to the amount of directions it can fire in. Each of these correspond with a side of your ship, which has armor. When that armor is depleted, your hull is exposed, which is ultimately your health. However, you have other health meters too, such as sails and crew health. When you have lower crew health, you reload a lot slower, and when your sails are gone, you move really slow, like your legs were broken by a pair of angry mobsters. To whittle down either of these healths? Is that a word? You switch between different types of ammo, cannons, ball and chains, and ammo that kills crew. For me, it looked like flaming balls of fire. Sure, that'd do the trick. So with these weapons, you can best choose how to defeat your opponent. When you defeat enemy players or NPC ships, they drop bounties or power-ups. These bounties range from speed upgrades, repair power-ups, increased damage, and many more. The idea is to acquire as much of these power-ups as much as possible to become more powerful than the other players. This is good as it increases the intensity of gameplay as the match proceeds. Players start hitting harder with their cannons, or they become more resistant to your cannon fire. There are certain dangers with some of the maps you encounter. Some have a designated area where a monster lurks, indicated by this massive skull thing in case you missed it. I personally didn't try this during any of my matches because I naturally assumed you needed a group of maybe 4 people to take it down. You also encounter hazards in this game like Maelstroms. Get it? Because it's the title of the game! Which can mean certain doom if you get too close, or, alternatively, are great places to practice for their upcoming Battleship Drifting tournament.
Deja vu, I've just been in this place before. Higher on the street and I know it's my time to go.
there are a few more things to consider during combat, such as raiding by throwing chains to attach to a boat and disabling your enemies, ramming boats like a goddamn juggernaut, sailing currents to speed up or slow down, etc. Overall, these mechanics involved boil down to a fast, fun, visceral mode of naval combat. Let's move on over to the other stuff outside of the matches, where you can upgrade and manage your battleships. So far, each faction has 3 boats to unlock, which have corresponding strengths and weaknesses. Each of these boats increase in level and unlock offensive or defensive additional passives. But as I mentioned earlier, each faction's boats are catered towards an overall set of principles. For the Orcs, for instance, there is emphasis on raiding and ramming between their ships. One boat, for example, gains speed when it takes a hit, which works well into their hit and run tactics. As you win matches, you win gold. That can then be used to buy new ships or upgrade your current ships. You also have a chance to unlock mates and captains, which can make up the crew of your boat, which can give additional passives or active abilities. No microtransaction bullshit here. You also earn XP to get a chest, which gives you a little incentive to work towards. Whew, that was a lot to go through. Let's move on, shall we? Sound and music. The sound design in this game is really authentic and visceral. You can really feel the intensity with blaring cannons, the right sort of sound of boats crashing against one another, and when a lot of boats are moving around in one area, you can hear the seas get a bit more tumultuous, and it's a total soundgasm, making each encounter visceral. It was clear when I picked up bounties, when events would occur during the match such as enemy deaths, and overall, this sound design is just epic. The music in Maelstrom is serviceable, and matches the pirate adventure theme the game has, with only a few tracks tending to not mesh entirely with whatever is going on in the match. It could be down to 2 people left, and the music sometimes doesn't reflect that. However, I only really noticed it when reviewing the footage. For me, I would like music tailored towards particular moments in-game. You see, the arena slowly closes in upon the amount of players left over. Shh, it's not like Battle Royale games, which become black waters, which is infested with gargantuan sea creatures that one-hit you. When you enter this water, a sinister tune could start playing, and when you re-enter the playable area, it's restored to normal, a good audio cue, and puts the player on edge. There is no voice acting yet in this game, which is mentioned on their Kickstarter, and it's something they're working on. Psst, I'm always available, just, griffinmuffin89, gmail.com, it's all good. I do think adding some voiceover to the game events, such as when, say, for example, you could be changing ammo, the captain shouts out, if it's an orc captain, it could be like, "Reload the cannons, boys! Time to tear up their sails!" Or when you collide with a cliff face and you can hear the crew saying on a human ship, "Oh man, the captain must be on the grog again!" Or something like that. I think that'll be awesome. Seriously, email me, Gunpowder Games. I could do some of the voices. Haha, I'm always available. Just, Art design and graphics. On the Unreal Engine 4, this game looks great. I like the ship designs for all factions. They're all distinct from one another, and the art design caters to each of the factions' characteristics. Like the orcs having dark metal plates of spiked metal along the hull, dwarven ships have plumes of smoke billowing out of engine-driven tank boats, and the humans have castles on their ships. Righto. The art style is nice, a bit cartoony, but ultimately grounded in medieval fantasy. They've taken a lot of go-to art choices for typical medieval fantasy and given more of a naval theme, like to some of the captains, like the orcs are wearing shark-tooth necklaces, humans with outfits akin to the British Imperial Navy during the 1700s, stuff like that. I get the feeling that they're really trying to create something new in their art style, and it's commendable. The environment is captivating. I like how the world just doesn't seem to cut off near the edge of the map, and it seems that there's a vast world beyond it. We can see interesting landscapes and features. I don't know if there will be a day-night situation, but that would be interesting if they added it in later. However, I did feel it was a bit empty, with no presence of people along the shores or even on the boats. I think adding some small models for people, like on the boats or on the ships or on land, will give this world a bit of extra life. Narrative and storytelling. This is the weird thing for this part of the video. There is not much to go on in terms of narrative or story within this game. It appears the single-player campaign, which was the 100k top-tier goal for the Kickstarter they did, unfortunately didn't reach it. However, it would be unfair of me to say that this is a con to the game, or just not do this section entirely. I've decided to grab whatever slither of story we can get from the Kickstarter, the website, and extrapolate some stuff from within the game. Riveting, I know, but bear with me. On the Kickstarter page, there is a mention of a flooding world, that only the highest points of the world are safe to retreat to. I wonder if Kevin Costner is going to make an appearance. I think the focus of the story should be the continuing rise of the sea level and certain factions having to adapt to survive due to this change in the world. I think as a result, we would need context as to what the world was like before the humans, orcs, dwarves, were forced to take upon the open seas. Were there other races that succumbed to the danger of the rising sea? What else has risen up from the sea? So this would be the premise of the story. But where do we go from there? It would be awesome if each faction had a key character to invest in. Maybe a single player campaign that spans across all three factions, transitioning between the plights of each faction, but in an overall linear story. The Phoenix Empire might have a guy who questions the Empire's ways and decides to go and investigate what exactly is causing the sea levels to rise. An orc captain begins to see how peace amongst the three factions may lead to overall prosperity and added strength in fighting back the sea monsters. The dwarves might have a captain who, instead of staying out of the fight entirely and focusing on defending and hiding, decides that they should bring their dwarven tech to the firefight. I think if you make these characters likable and provide a unique single player experience, as in don't just copy the multiplayer game over into the single player, you'll probably have a decent amount of positive hubbub regarding the campaign. Avoid your typical kill this, fetch this quests. Maybe build a rich world to explore. Let us discover things and let the player feel awesome for discovering islands or cities or treasures. The thing with games with open seas to explore, listen in Rareware, you don't want to miss this, is that it opens up a whole new world. You need to fill it with more than just 1 or 2 or 3 things to do. It needs some variety. I think one thing Gunpowder Games can look at is something like Sunless Sea. If you don't know, Sunless Sea is a very simplistic game, but makes up for it with in-depth economy, careful decision-driven storytelling, role-playing, logistical planning, and more than anything, atmosphere. The lesson from here to take away is that all you control is a boat, but you are introduced to a vast underground world with a rich background told through text windows, and your decisions can have dramatic impacts on your journey. Text windows may not be this game's cup of tea, however. Have events where you can get your boat to dock into a harbor, and from there you can choose to go to a tavern, marketplace, or town hall. From these places, you can meet possible quest givers, have fun interactions, meet interesting characters you can recruit or do things with that will unlock stuff for your boat or new areas. You don't need an expensive 3D rendered town, just a good representation of one, and make it visually appealing. Look, brass tacks here. Create a system that allows us to explore the land as well as the sea. It's what we need to give us this world more depth and make it so impactful when we leave the islands and set sail toward the horizon. My final thoughts. I think the gameplay in this early access version of Maelstrom is refined and the foundation of this game. I feel that this was the focus of the current build of the game. Make the game good first, no hype about procedurally generated islands or some shit, just good solid gameplay. And I think this philosophy for game developers is fading in favor of just marketing a game to a particular audience with the deepest pockets. This game is entering the market with games like Fortnite and PUBG taking up a lot of the multiplayer arena market space. So I think making the combat functional and fun was important. I don't think we should compare this to other MOBAs though. I think the people who like the original mod map in WarCraft 3, Battleships, or other games like World of Warships might find this game appealing, and I highly recommend you check it out. I'll wait till the full release to give this game a proper review. Until then everyone, happy sailing. Like, comment, subscribe, do all that lovely stuff down below. If you're new here, be sure to check out my other videos, linked at the end of this video. Share this video with your mates, and I'll see you later.